So how I made crores at the age of 18. And just so we are clear, this was done through e-commerce and this is revenue, not profit. All right. So yeah, that's the thing. So the matter of fact is, how did we do this? And for the people who don't know, that this is a screenshot that I have for my with from my internal software that I use to like manage all the operations from. And there's going to be a long, unedited, detailed raw video on how I did it and how you can do this for yourself too, by using this business model, or in general whatever business model you have, because this video is primarily going to be about mindset part of things, and how you can basically do this or whatever number you have in mind with whatever business model you have chosen. Right, so let's get started. All right, so the first thing that you need to keep in mind is that yeah. Oh, this is the maximum we can go. The first thing that you need to keep in mind is that you need to figure stuff out, figure out what you want to do. All right, so it takes time is what I'm trying to say here. So I started all this make money online thing, right, back when I was, I think, 11 years old, in my 6th grade. So I started this thing like back then. And what I used to do is I used to make YouTube videos. All right, I used to make gaming YouTube videos, to be exact. So what I did was I used to have this YouTube channel where I used to post like mods and cracks and APK files and etc, 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 right? What else do you think 11-year-old would do? So yeah, I had my phone and I used to make videos on that. And then what happened was, after that, I, like, obviously it was not really long-term strategy because this was basically like against YouTube's policies, and that channel got taken down very well after it got monetized and stuff. So I made somewhere about like $100 or something like that, right? Nothing more, $100, something like that. And but then the thing is that at a very young age I saw that this make money online thing was actually real and it was possible. So one very thing that you need to know is that you need to believe that you can actually make money online. And that is why, rather than setting up a very big target like this, what you can set out to do is just have a number that will make you that will convince you that this thing is actually true and it will work. It could be any number that you feel comfortable. It could be 1 lakh, it could be 5 lakhs, it could be 10 lakhs, not more than that, because as a someone who has never made money online, it's not really that easy. All right, it takes a lot of time. So I'm 19 now, right, and I just turned 19, and I started back when I was 11. So it's been 8 years already. All right, 8 fucking years. All right, so this is a very, very important thing to keep in mind. I have been in this thing since 8 years, since I was 11 years old, so almost 8 years now, right? So it takes a lot of time, and it will take you maybe less, maybe more, depending on what your situation is and what kind of skills you have. Because I was making YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff, I learned a lot of kind of like foundational fundamental skills like copywriting and title and thumbnails and all these kind of things that could later be monetized. I had some skills that I could monetize and make money from. So I tried doing that, and it to some extent it worked, to some extent it didn't work, right? So what then happened was, since I had a gaming channel, I was quite fond of games, right? So during that time I really got very much into like game development and those kind of stuff, because I had played this game called Red Dead Redemption 2 and I was a huge fan of it and really like it. I think it's one of the best games of all time. So I really like that game and I wanted to make a game of my own. So what do you think, a 13-year-old, I think this was 2 years later, so I was like 13, 14 then, I wanted to make my own games. So I started with games, and obviously that didn't really work out because duh, right? Then I wanted to make my own apps and I want to make my own software. And then because YouTube had terminated my channel, which was, I think it was in after the lockdown period in 2021 when my channel got terminated, right? So I was very angry at YouTube, because obviously I thought, like, why did you terminate my channel? I didn't understand shit. So yeah, I was very angry. I thought I'll make my own YouTube, but obviously it didn't take long to realize it was not really the best of ideas, right? So but what happened was, whilst I was doing all this, I learned a lot of skills. All right, I learned game development, I learned software development, right? Development like apps, Windows, right? And I also learned, I had this was back when Alan Walker was really popular during like the PUBG time. So I also learned a bit of music production, that is FL Studio. All right, I mean, music production is not FL Studio, it's a lot of software that you use. This is like really popular, so I use that, right? And I use this, and I kind of did all this. So this taught me like C sharp, right? And this taught me Java, and because I had some game development experience, C sharp and a bit of C++, not that much, but a bit of C++ as well. And what also ended up happening was, and this was obviously, you didn't have any sort of AI tools back then, so it was like all Stack Overflow and YouTube tutorials and brackeys and all that kind of stuff. So this is what happened basically, right? And when doing this, because obviously once you have made your things, you have to like go and sell them and market to people and reach out to people. So I learned a lot of like cold DMing, reaching out, convincing people to buy my stuff, right? I mean, to not really buy because it's free, mostly to try out my things. So when you wanted to publish your own app on the Google Play Store, there's this criteria that it needs to have at least 20 downloads, something. I don't know what it is right now. It was something like that. And I had somehow convinced my parents that this is something I need for my school project, and you need to pay like $25 for the fee, and I think you get like a 25 years license, something like that, right? So I'd convinced my parents that this is something I need as a school project or something like that, and they ended up believing me, and I did that. And then I went on to Reddit and did all this not cold damming, it's called DMing, right? DMing. So whatever. So I did that. I reached out to people, I convinced them to use my app. The app that I made was a personal finance manager, right? It was Personal Finance Manager. I cannot reveal the name because I think the repository is still public. Not that I don't, but it has some like confidential data, so I cannot really reveal it. But it was like this, all right. I don't know if it's still there on the Play Store because I think I didn't follow some policies or something like that, so Google removed it. But I mean, whatever, right? So this is something I tried, didn't really work out, obviously. All right, so yeah, after that, came my high school. This is basically like the long story short of the thing, but the other side of this was extreme isolation, right? Extreme isolation, because all of this, when this was happening, keep in mind, I was a very young teenager, all right, and young teenagers are not supposed to be sitting on the computers all day long and doing random shit like C++ and C sharp programming, right? They're supposed to be out and socializing, making friends, making girlfriends, or whatever the fuck, right? Going to social. But I didn't do any of that, all right. Not that I didn't want to do it. It was also because I didn't really find that very joyful and meaningful, and I didn't really enjoy it. And I was like, what the fuck you doing? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, 5 years later, when you're out and you're out of this bubble of your parents, like, what is the skill that you're going to carry? So I had this like thought clarity from a very young age. Now you might ask, where did I get this thought clarity from? And I tried a lot of things, nothing worked out, but there was one thing single-handedly that I have done right all my teenage, that has been reading books. All right, I started reading when in 2020, when I was I think I was 13, 14, something like that, right? And since then I have read over 400 books till now, right? So 400 plus books on different things, all non-fiction, by the way. So all non-fiction books I've read. And in the first 2 years, I think I read something like 150 to 200 books. So till I was 16, I read like 200 books. So yeah, I used to read a lot. So this was like one thing that single-handedly gave me that thought clarity that, okay, this is what needs to be done, all right? And even like before that, I didn't really use a lot of social media. I didn't use Instagram. I didn't really use Reddit. What I used was, I used YouTube and I used Quora. All right. So if you don't know what Quora is, it's basically like a question answer platform, right? And Quora is like relatively, I wouldn't say I don't know how it is right now, but back then it was relatively better than the traditional social media, because you had a bit of intellectual people there, and they used to share some kind of decent stuff, like relatively compared to other social media, right? So that is what I used to use basically. And then what it is that it kind of just put me like a little bit some sort of what do you say, order to chaos, if that's the way to put it. So yeah, coming back to the thing, so this put me in obviously extreme isolation, and I was really lonely, because obviously you don't want to be friends with dude who does all this, and it's pretty weird, right? But the fact remains that I was learning a lot of skills that kids my age were playing PUBG. I was trying to make one, so definitely that put me in a very different league. And obviously the cause of that was you didn't have a lot of friends, you didn't really go to birthday parties, you were not invited to any parties, and I also found them very weird, to be honest. I was not really the most social of people. I just didn't enjoy it, didn't like it. I knew there's all this feudal and all these people are just going to forget each other after the 10th thing is over, and everyone departs. So yeah, I just had this thought clarity by doing all this, and I just understood human psychology pretty decently for my age, to be honest. So, the result of that was I used to try a lot of things. And in school, I didn't really participate in anything because I knew it was bullshit, it was a waste of time. So I just somehow just studied, like, studied somehow, just scored good marks. So my parents like didn't interfere in what the hell I was doing, because I knew if I didn't do this, then they would interfere. So I just did this, and then I did whatever the fuck I wanted, right? I didn't participate in any of the ECAs and CCAs or anything like that, because I know all of that is bullshit. Doesn't really make your life better or impact your life in the long run in any way, shape, or form in a positive way, right? It's just a waste of time. And I focus on doing my own things, obviously, right? So that's pretty much the thing. And what happened after that was my high school came. High school begins, right? High school begins. So what I did in high school was I was basically trying the same thing. To be honest, I was trying to do like software development, because this is one thing that kind of stayed. Really liked it, and especially now that you had ChatGPT, I was quite interested and fascinated by it and wanted to do it. But obviously, as I realized, cracking software and is not really that easy. And plus, with the advent of AI, most of the software will eventually be turned obsolete, especially like SaaS-based businesses, right? So the thing is that I was like kind of lost for a very long time. For a very long time. All right. So I was still trying to figure out what to do, and then I tried YouTube automation. I tried running agency. I tried personal branding. I tried all these things. Right? Nothing really worked out. So yeah, basically, I tried all this and it didn't really work out. Let me just zoom in. So I tried all this, it didn't really work out, and obviously it was like, I was like, okay, so this isn't working out. What should I do? But there's one thing that I knew, that this is supposed to take time, because if it were that easy, because I had this thought clarity that executing something is not complicated. Executing something is not complicated. It's simple, not easy. All right. Now, what this means is that you need to figure out what you want to execute upon. So, like, having clarity on what it is you wanna execute on. All right. So I'll try to give you an example, which is a bit weird. So the thing is, it takes you more time and more energy and more thinking and more sort of physical energy to prep. If you have ever cooked food, or if you cook food for yourself, you will notice that prepping takes a lot more time than actual cooking. All right. So the thing is that if you have prep food, you will realize that this is a lot more tiring, a lot more energy consuming, and a lot more intensive than just cooking. It doesn't take that long if this is done right. Okay. So this is what you need to understand. Like, I know weird example here, but I'm just trying to help you visualize this. So executing something that you have figured out what is it that you want to execute upon is not that difficult, but figuring out what you want to execute on is the difficult part, because you don't really want to, let's say if you want to make chicken tandoori, you don't want to prepare for paneer makhni and then end up executing on paneer makhni, right? Okay, that was a weird example, but whatever, right? Maybe I'm just hungry, I don't know. So whatever, you get my point, right? So whatever it is, you first have to figure it out, and this is it takes time. And I just understood that because I had some mentors back then that I used to admire. I didn't really know them personally, but I follow them on YouTube and had a bit of idea as to what their journey was and how they did it, basically, like, long story short. And so I knew it's going to take some time for me to figure out, and that is why I didn't give up. And I was like, let's just do this. And then one day, while I was scrolling on YouTube during my break phase, like, I decided, okay, fine, enough of trying everything. Let me just let the universe just guide me, and let's see what it is that I like to do. All right. And moving forward, I'll also tell you why I didn't enjoy these things, and why I ended up quitting that. There was this podcast by a dude on a YouTube channel, right? I watched, and it was regarding Indian e-commerce, and it was about how this guy from Mumbai, he makes around 2-3 crores per month at 23. And I was pretty shocked. I was like, okay, wow, that sounds interesting. And then he mentioned dropshipping. Alright, guys, so I'm also very happy to share that this video has been sponsored by Hostinger, and this is regarding their incredible hosting platform that you can host your Anodyne workflows on. Now, whatever way you choose to make money online, right, whatever it may be, you need a website, and you need this VPS. If you don't know what's a VPS, it's a virtual private server where you can host basically anything. You can host your own LLMs, you can host your own end-to-end automations, you can host your own websites, you can basically do anything. All right, and I'll have this link in the description, like, where you can go into, and you'll get a special discount which is only for my viewers. So you'll get that. You can use the coupon code tsovansh, and you can also go through that link and you'll get the 10% off on any plan that you choose from here, right? So ideally you can go through this, like this more than enough, right? This, you can pick any, but depending on use cases, mostly like this is like the one that will suffice. So I'll just show you an example as to how to do this and how to set this up. So the thing is that it's not that Hostinger just reached out to me and I was like, okay, let's do this and let's proceed. The thing was that I have been using Hostinger since I started e-commerce basically. So I have never used any other companies, whether it be GoDaddy or I don't know, like other websites or whatever. I don't know what people use, right? I have always used Hostinger. Two weird reasons: their domain names are very cheaper than compared to any other website. And I have done this, like I have a list of domains, I'll just show you. So firstly, their domain names are very cheaper than compared to any other like provider. Like there's a difference of like 500 to 1,000 rupees per domain. And especially like when you're operating like me, like a multi-brand portfolio or whatever, you have a lot of domains and they're like, renewable in yearly will save you like thousands if you use hosting over others. And it's basically a lot of free money saved, right? So once you like click on the buy plan, you will obviously be redirected here. Now you have to select whatever it is you want. So I'll be like showing you how to deploy this, so don't need to get it. But whatever you want here, you can just get it, and you can apply the coupon code here, right? tsovansh, and the discount will be applied on whatever you select. All right. So now because I already have the plan on my account, so it doesn't work for me because I already have the plan, so I cannot really do it. But once you apply it here, you will have the 10% coupon code applied, and you can proceed to purchase it. All right. So let me just show you how to use it pretty much. So I'll just show you how to get the domain. All right. So let's just say you want a domain. It could be Rexora. All right. This is a random name that I came up with. All right. Rexora. So you have Rexora. Let's try to get a .in domain. Vinerexa. Okay, so I'm just coming up with an episode name because I just want to show you guys how to get the discount, right? All right, so it's not available. Was already taken. Vinerexa. Okay, it's available. So as you can see, it's just 2.99. So let's just click on make it yours, and you can just go the whatever you can like prefer. You can just go with the normal plan as well, right? And once you land here on the checkout page, you can just apply the coupon code tsovansh, and you will be getting 10% off. All right. But as I already have the stuff like claimed, obviously I cannot claim it back because it doesn't make sense, right? So I hope that's clear, right? This is how you can buy it, and then it's very simple to integrate like into Shopify. You can just go to Shopify domains and you can just type in your domain, and then like you'll have a pop-up which you can use to connect it. All right. So now let me actually show you how to set up your own VPS so that you can go ahead and build your own end-to-end stuff and all that. So because I already have this plan, it doesn't make any sense for me to do this, so I'll just skip it, and I'll just show you how to go ahead and create your own VPS and basically proceed. So once you're here, all right, you'll have once you bought the plan, you'll have something like this. Your KVM setup isn't finished yet, so you gotta click on the setup and you can like go ahead and do it. So just you guys know that I was actually not lying. I'll just show you all these domains that I have, and obviously they will be blurred because they are my store names. I can't really reveal them, but I have all these domains here. As you can see, I have 9 domains here, like active, and as you can see the expiration date here. So I have like the expiration date is generally 1 to 2 years, so they were back. So just so you guys know, I wasn't like just making up the story. All right, so I actually use them. They're pretty good. So you just click on the setup part, and then you select India obviously as a server. So I'll select India, click on next, and depending on what you want to do, like obviously as I said, you can do a lot of things. You can have your own Linux and stuff set up here, right, to like run your local LLM or whatever. So you can also host your WordPress websites, your own OpenClaw, Hermes agent, right? Or I think you can also host like other agents that you have, that can do all of this. So if you don't know what these things are, they're pretty good and they'll really help you speed up your business and do a lot of things and monotonous tasks that otherwise would take up a lot of time. So since in this video we are primarily covering N10, that's what I'll be showing you. But yeah, it's pretty damn good tool, and if you don't know, like using all this on their own will cost you lots and lots of money, like thousands of dollars per month in API tokens and fees and all that. You're just getting that for, I think it was like 7.9 or something like that, right? So yeah, it's really good. You should just get it, like if you want to scale your business. So you just select this, and then it will get installed. All right, so you deploy this and don't have to do anything, just one click deploy. By the way, if you go ahead and set this up yourself, it's gonna take you at least a week to do this, and it's gonna take you so much hassle and headache, because I have tried doing it. I didn't know how to do this before, and it was very irritating, very frustrating, and it took a lot of time, and obviously it cost more money as well, because there's a lot of problem. And if you want to like locally do it on a machine, then the problem is a lot of the APIs that you want to use in N10 or Hermes or OpenClaw, whatever, they will not be supported because of the there's something like, I think it's like there's some security thing in like the backend of JavaScript, something like that. I don't really know because I'm not that technical, but there's something like open something. I don't really know, I forgot the term exactly, but because of that the APIs prevent if the locally hosted things to actually get deployed. And so it just complicates it, and most of the things will not really work unless you get their $20 plan or $50 plan or whatever it is. So getting this for like just $7.99, it's a fucking steal, and you can like have unlimited usage. And N10, by the way, if you don't know, it's an open source tool. So if you deploy it on your own VPS by paying just 799 rupees, you basically have it for free. Just you're paying the cost of your VPS, which obviously on hosting is the lowest and it's the best. So yeah, why not just do it, right? Alright, so once this is done, this is like the pop-up that you'll get. So you can just select whatever your experience is. So you can just select this is my first time, and you can do next. So you can select whatever reason. Let's just say I'm doing it for commercial reasons, and what do you want? Build on HostGator, website content, AI and machine learning, API, blah blah. You can just select whatever you want. I'll just select website or content. Alright, so you selected N10, so that is mostly like done. Like that is what you have here. So you just click on open, right, and bam, you have your N10 working. So then what you can do is you can create an account. So let's just say I'll enter my email at gmail.com, and you can just have your details, right, and just click on next, and you're ready to go basically, right? So once you can just select this, send me a freelance key. As I said, this is like open source software, so you don't really have to worry. It's like for lifetime, it's free. So yeah, that's it. You have got N10 for basically free because it's open source software. You can get the key, you can put it here, and it will work for free for lifetime just on the VPS hosting. And this is not it. You can like host your own websites, you can host your own agents and all that kind of stuff, for almost free, which otherwise would cost you a lot. And it's very complicated. It's just one click setup here. It's very simple. So yeah, that's it. If you want to make more money, have more automations and systems that actually scale your business without relying on humans or without relying on people who break when you scale and lose your profitability. None of that happens with Hostinger. It's very good, right? I personally use it, as I showed you, and yeah, you can just continue doing it and make more money. So yeah, if you want to do this, and you can get the link in the description, you can use the first link, my special link. It will give you 10% off on all their products, and you can also use the coupon code tsovansh for 10% off, right? And it's like, okay, this looks interesting, sounds interesting. What is it exactly? So I had heard about dropshipping, to be exact, but I had just heard about like international dropshipping. I didn't really know how it's done in India or how it operates and blah blah, anything like that. I just knew that it is something that, yeah, there's something called dropshipping. I just knew that much. I didn't know anything more. So I went and did my research, and I was like, okay, so this is something that I actually like. I'm fine. And I was like, okay, that aha moment, and something just clicks. So the thing was that what I had learned, across all these things is that I really liked selling. Okay, because I wanted to sell. Okay, now what does that mean? What that means is that, in my pursuit of trying to build all these apps and things and all that, I noticed that I want to create products, or I want to have products that I can sell. All right. And the reason why I didn't like all these things, okay, especially the agency and any sort of this thing, is because you are very highly dependent on something what you call client or anything like that. And I didn't really enjoy that as my primary source of income, because it's like you're depending on other people. Now obviously you're like, okay, you still depend on people to this, but it's like you can control it. You run paid ads on this, whereas that's not the case in this. You are depending on you're depending on an algorithm, here you're depending on some clients and outreach and blah blah. And this is not really possible because I hadn't really done anything substantial for people to follow me, so it was just out of reach, didn't really work out. So these two were the only options, and I didn't like them because obviously I had to have clients and manage and blah blah, and I didn't really like wanted to have someone dictating what I do, all right, and having like a boss, because a client that's paying you a high ticket price and something like that, it's still like a someone that commands some sort of control over you. I didn't like that, right? So that was a problem. So that is why I didn't like this. But what I noticed is that I liked selling and I liked solving problems. So this both fits perfectly in this. And so it began. Obviously, I knew I needed to save up money because it's not possible to do this without money, right? Obviously. So whatever pocket money I used to get, which was not a lot, um, it was like in single digits. Let's just say single digits. What I mean is like it was in one cents, 100,000. So it was in the thousands only, under 10,000. Or no, actually, क्या बोलूं मैं? So whatever pocket money I used to get, I used to just save that up. It was not that much because, to be honest, I was like my all the basic costs were covered, so it was mostly for like extra things. So I used to save like 50%, right, and the rest 50% I used to just invest back in the business, right? Sorry, I used to have for myself. So what most people do wrong when they are starting out is that they'll firstly spend on themselves and then they'll invest in the business. I did the opposite. I just invested 50% straight in the business, and then whatever I was left with, I had to live along. Obviously, I'm not going to say that I was like so because I was like staying with my nani mama mummy, so I didn't really have to worry about anything like basic kind of stuff. Everything was like kind of like comfort, if that's the word for it. And I had to put myself through a bit of torture by traveling in like a bit of public transport and all that. That's about it, basically, right? So yeah, that's a long story short. So the comfort was sacrificed. So that's the thing. You don't really need to sacrifice your basic things. That's not really needed, but you need to sacrifice the comfort, because as long as you're comfortable, you'll not really push yourself. So I kind of understood, and that's why intentionally I used to like just go in public transports that I hated and didn't really enjoy it. But I knew that if I just push myself to this extreme where I have to do things that I don't really like and enjoy, and I'm just borderline just pushing myself and doing that, and just negative energy just builds up. I'll have that energy when doing, and that's what I did. So I just started working very crazy, like 12, 14, 16 hours a day, 18 hours sometimes, right? And was pretty like hectic, to be honest. First few months I didn't really get results, and then what happened was there was this I was operating in India initially, right? So but then there was this India Pakistan situation in 125, right? So I had to switch markets, and that's when it kind of clicked for me. And then I eventually started back in India when the situation was resolved, and finally, like everything became fine. In a nutshell, I found my first winner, and that's how we scale, basically, right? So that's a long story short, basically. But obviously there are lots of ifs and buts. So when I first told my family about all this, like this is what I want to do and all that, when I was getting some results, like not that much, but like 4 5 lakhs revenue per month, which is, I would say, still decent, to be honest, for a 17-year-old. But yeah, I mean, that's not enough for, I don't know, parents or whatever. So what ended up happening was, everybody declared me a failure, and they told me that you cannot do anything, and it was really bad and sad, and just you should not say those kind of things to like a 17-year-old, right? Obviously. But then again, everyone has their own egos and personalities and stuff that if you go about doing this thing and like actually succeed at it, they'll have to break their paradigms and limiting beliefs, which people don't want to, because they'll basically shatter their egos. And the by ego I don't mean the ego wala ego. It's the so I don't know if you know about this, but I mean the the ego, and the super ego. So if you don't know what these things are, just Google them once. So these are psychological terms of the of our subconscious, right? Personalities and whatever you want to call them. You just Google them, you'll know what they are. So yeah, I mean this wala ego, not the attitude wala ego. That's the way to put it. Yeah, not the attitude wala ego. This is the ego I'm referring to. Okay. So yeah, that's basically the long story short how I did it. And then obviously there were a lot of ups and downs, and a lot of mistakes I made along the way. And once I started this, obviously there's a long story to this as well. After this I started, so I will be covering that in a video that I'm making, which is going to be titled what I learned with Indian dropshipping in 1.5 years. That's going to be the video. I'll talk about it in that. So yeah, I hope you liked it. It was kind of like the story of how I went from absolute like a 11-year-old kid who didn't know shit to like doing this, and living the life and building the life I wanted to, right? And if you're someone who happens to be someone who wants to start their own e-commerce business or scale their own e-commerce business in India, then I do have a one-to-one mentorship program. you can email me in the email that I have linked in the description. Okay, you can email me there. This is not for people who are not serious. I only take very serious applicants. You need to have decent budget because you're learning from the best in the game. All right, this program is guaranteed to make you money, and it's only for serious people. All right, so if this is something that interests you, then you can email me and we can see if we can help you out. All right, otherwise, yeah, you can just enjoy the free source that's coming out on YouTube, right? And yeah, if you want to scale your e-commerce business or apply to you or whatever you want to start and you want to go do this, then yeah, just let me know. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.